Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here with another Total War Warhammer tournament cast. In this particular game, we're going to have a matchup between the Greenskins and the Vampire Counts. So the Greenskins are going to be piloted by Pippington, and the Vampire Counts are going to be piloted by Nirog. So this is actually the round of 8 in the Total Warhammer Cup number 2, which I believe took place about a week and a half ago. If I'm not mistaken, there's actually going to be a Total Warhammer Cup number 3 tournament coming up this coming Saturday. So again, if you guys are around, tune in, and I will be doing my best to cast the semifinals and the finals of these particular tournaments after the fact. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this new series, and let's get right down to the business. So the Greenskins player over here has essentially a front line of Black Orcs just all the way across the board. Now, Black Orcs are a decent pick against the Vampire Counts. They have heavy hitting armor piercing with 42, and if we actually look at the split and the breakdown of the stats, they have 30 armor piercing damage, so that is quite a bit. So against Graveguard and heroic units, they're going to do pretty well. On top of that, they also have 110 armor, so against fodder, skeletons, zombies, all the stuff that you're going to see a lot of from the Vampire Counts, they're going to take very little to no damage. So decent pick in that regard. Also, more importantly, guys, they are immune to psychology. So if you take a look right here on the logo, on the tooltip, they do have an immunity to psychology. So the Vampire Counts have quite a few units that do cause terror, and again, mass terror routes can be quite an issue, when you're using big eccentric builds and things like that. So Black Orcs are definitely impervious to that, and hopefully we'll do pretty well here. But in my opinion, Black Orcs are pretty weak against Cryptors. Cryptors have heavy armor piercing damage, with 70, and let's actually go over here and take a quick look at the breakdown of how much of that actually is armor piercing damage. So we'll go here, we have to get right on top of them here, and they actually have 53 armor piercing damage. That's going to hit pretty hard, and also the poison is pretty effective against these Black Orcs here. So on top of the Black Orc line, he does have 2 Giants, and Giants aren't a bad pick. They're very good at wading through the ranks. So for example, if they're surrounded by Graveguard or other units like that, they're pretty good at just pathing through and going after high value targets. Hopefully for them, they'll be able to catch this Mortis Engine, because the Mortis Engine, especially the Claw of Nagash, is such a good pick here, because it's going to slow down all these Black Orcs and drain them, and not much here on the Greenskin roster, aside from the Goblin Big Bosses, is going to be able to keep up with this Claw of Nagash. So I'm very eager to see how the Greenskin player deals with that. But 2 Giants, they punish Graveguard, and they hit so hard they can deal with most threats. But unfortunately, the Vampire Counts player actually does have Skeleton Spears, who trade really well with these Giants. So hopefully he can keep them kind of mixed in with these Black Orcs, and not let them get isolated by those spears. On top of that, he actually does have a group of nasty skulkers here, which is an interesting pick. And I think why people do that, if you guys take a look here at the smoke bomb, it does give negative 76% speed. So when enemy flying lords or heroic units come in and try and snipe this orc shaman, you can use the smoke bomb to trap them and then really collapse with all your other units and essentially get a pretty free kill from that if all goes according to plan, of course. So it'll be interesting to see how he uses these bad boys. On top of that, 2 Goblin Big Bosses. He does have an Orc Shaman with the Foot of Gork, very good against Blood Knights, and then ere we go to buff his Black Orcs. And he does have Grimgor Ironhide. Grimgor hits pretty hard. He can, he's pretty solid at working through Graveguard, and also, if the Red Duke decides to land, he'll trade pretty well with the Red Duke. But the one issue, obviously, with him is mobility, and, again, he can get kited around, and with the Claw of Nagash, it's going to be even harder for him to get on those pertinent targets. But still, I like Grimgor. He is immune to psychology, which is really nice here. He's not going to get terror routed and chased off the battlefield, so we'll see how the Black Orc himself does. So aside from that, just more Black Orcs over here, and let's get right into the Vampire Counts army. So the Vampire Count player did bring the Red Duke. It looks like he has Raised Dead, Von Hell's Dance Macabre, and then he also has Invocation of Nehek. And then, of course, he has El Sif, which is a pretty good ability for those of you that don't know. Let's see if we can get over. Sometimes when you want to look at the tooltips here, I wish they would let you select it. But it does give negative 48% speed, 22% physical resistance, and negative 60 melee defense. So a very good duelist tool. And actually, I'd be interested to see how him and Grimgor trade. But again, he doesn't have your traditional armor piercing damage. He does have some, of course, because all units do have some armor piercing damage. But if we go ahead and take a look here, let's see if we can mouse over. So again, he only has 160, and if we look at Grimgor's armor piercing damage, let's get it right here on him, see if we can get this. He actually does have 290, so the trading there would be pretty interesting. But aside from that, the Vampire Counts has 2 groups of Skeleton Spears, a very good choice. They can shut down Orc Boy Biggins very effectively, and they're going to do so good against the Giants because their weapon strength is only 24, which isn't actually bad for fodder units. But on top of that, they actually have a 13 bonus first large, so they're going to hit these unarmored Giants really well. On top of that, he does have the Stearnsmen. They trade well with Biggins, but honestly, against Black Orcs, they're not going to be the best. But with their regeneration and just high stats all around with 47 melee defense, they are a must-bring in pretty much all matchups, in my opinion. More Skeleton Warriors, just some fodder units in the center, and you can see he saturates his fodder units here with some Cryptors in the back, so they'll work pretty well against Black Orcs, because the Black Orcs are going to take a while to get through 120 models here, and these Cryptors here are definitely going to lay the smackdown on some of these Black Orcs. On top of that, more Graveguard with great weapons for armor piercing to deal with these Black Orcs. and then a mixture of Cryptors and Graveguard and Skeletons over here. On top of that, he does have the Claw of Nagash, which is so good against the Greenskins, especially if you're able to saturate it with fodder units and just kind of run it behind your ranks. It's going to slow these Black Orcs down, and nothing over here can really catch these. Now, kind of the inherent counter against the Claw of Nagash is missile units, but with the zombie spam, it's so hard to get like a firing line against the vampire counts, especially if they have the Red Duke flying around. So very eager to see how he deals with that again. He does have a Banshee, which I really like. The Greenskins don't have a ton of damage against ethereal units, and this bad boy, definitely pretty solid. It does have armor piercing, it causes terror, which again against the Black Orc line and Grimgor isn't going to be that great, but still a decent pick, and I would probably consider it and auto-include in most of my vampire counts versus Greenskin builds. And lastly, he does have Blood Knights. Blood Knights, anti-large, very good against big ends, and pretty good against, heroic units. They'll shred these Goblin big bosses if they get the chance. So let's get right down to business, guys, and hopefully you enjoy this cast. So the Greenskin player is just advancing pretty aggressively here. You can see the drain already starting to take effect. It obviously didn't do too much damage because that was only probably, half a second there, but the Greenskin player is just going to smash in. He's actually sending in these Nazi Sculptors, but it looks like he does decide to pull them back and use them defensively on this Orc Shaman. And the Giant gets in here and just lays a smacking on these Graveguards. So this is exactly where you want the Giant, but unfortunately for Pippington, these Skeleton Spears just get right on it, and they're going to surround it, and it's going to have a hard time getting out of here. But still, it's getting some damage on these Graveguard, and it's already killed 4 models, so definitely not a bad choice at all. But over here as well, the Skeleton Spears have surrounded this Giant, so very, very well played by Nirog, making sure to get, the units where they need to be. You can see the Cryptors here in conjunction with these Graveguard here are kind of fighting Black Orcs, which is exactly what you want. These guys are definitely getting hit very, very hard, and you can already see some Black Orcs definitely getting mashed up by these guys. This is what they were designed to fight. It's just heavily armored units like this. And also on that same coin, the Claw of Nagash is draining over here, and Blood Knights. So just a ton of pressure on this flank over here. And when these Blood Knights get in here, even though they don't have armor piercing, they still hit really, really hard. They do have the Frenzy for the weapon damage, and you can see some Black Orcs are going to go flying. And even though they're immune to psychology, they're still steady, and just traditional leadership hits are going to get to them. So this particular flank is getting overwhelmed heavily. You can see this Banshee's over here, these Black Orcs are shaken. They're already starting to go down pretty quickly. He does retaliate with an Ere We Go, and he also looks like he did use his Flash Bomb over there to slow these units, but again, it's not going to be terribly pertinent. But actually, he did catch these Blood Knights, so you can see they're a lot slower, and it's definitely constricting their mobility, and then he uses a Foot of Gork. So very, very well played. Definitely wasn't expecting that. So he slows them and then uses a Foot of Gork. So great tacticianship right there. I definitely, that was one of the more impressive plays I've definitely seen in this tournament series. So this Claw continuing to drain over here, and this is definitely looking pretty bad for these Black Orcs. Over here, it's going quite a bit better for the Greenskins. You can see the Giant is actually able to engage on this White King, and though he hasn't done substantial damage, at least he's in a cost-effective trade, and you can also see Grimgor getting a little bit of a smacking on that White King as well. Over here, a lot of these Sternsmen are holding up really well against these Black Orcs, though they don't have armor piercing, so these Black Orcs are still actually at 60 and 57 models respectively. The Sternsmen are still holding it down and allowing some of these Cryptors to do pretty well, but the Cryptors are obviously pretty squishy units, relatively speaking. They have a low model count and only have 30 armor, so you don't want them taking the damage alone. But then the Claw of Nagash comes in and just absolutely rams into these Black Orcs. And the Claw of Nagash itself does have 120 weapon strength. It looks like it does have some sort of a bonus here. Let's go ahead and see. I think that's a bonus versus infantry. So interesting. So against Black Orcs, it's not only going to get a bonus versus infantry, which is, let's go ahead and take a look, 15. It does have armor piercing damage, so it's going to hit these Black Orcs pretty hard. You can see they're getting drained, and they're also down to 49 models. So against the Claw of Nagash, you really need missile units to deal with it, in my opinion. It's very, very hard to deal with big ends and other units like that because it can simply just do laps between the ranks, and it's very, very hard to keep up with. So you can see over here the drain and just kind of perpetual flanking and all the zombie spam back here eventually actually crumbled these Black Orcs. So having some big ends here to maybe help out with these Blood Knights and also to help cut through this fodder might have been helpful, but again, it was a very tough situation, and he did put a lot of marbles in these 2 Giants. And the Giants, as you guys saw in the beginning of the game, were surrounded by Skeleton Spears and were having trouble really being effective. And yeah, the Black Orcs, for the most part, on this particular flank, have collapsed. You can see the Vampire Count's army is coming over and, starting to kind of engage in this big Zerg, and that's usually what ends up happening. But another zombie spam going down back here, getting on the back of these Black Orcs, and you can see they're now shaken. So let's actually take a look right now at the stats, and let's go to the leadership, and we can see exactly what's causing it. So due to damage sustained, they have taken the minus 22%, but being attacked in the rear by these zombies, that's negative 14 leadership, guys. That is huge. That is a massive debuff, and just a true testament to the power of the zombies summoning and all that other kind of fun stuff. So there are a few groups of Black Orcs, but they're all either shaken or getting pretty close to wavering, and the 2 Giants in here are still, one of them's confident, one of them's steady, because Giants do have pretty high leadership, I think, at 100. But still, there's just so many units, and these spears are just going to trade so effectively with them. Also, Grimgor is now getting focused down by some of these, where are they? Yeah, you can see he's surrounded by zombies. zombies, definitely in his last stand here, and it's going to be pretty hard once these Cryptors get on him and poison him. And also the Blood Knights are starting to get in on these Giants with their very heavy hitting damage. You can see right now, they do have 39 weapon strength, but they do have a bonus for his large. And let's actually take a look. I've never actually looked to see exactly what it is, but yeah, 22. So that against the large units like these Giants, for example, who have low armor, they're just going to hit like absolute trucks. So, and also that drain is continuing to just wear down these Black Orcs, and you can see they all break from army losses at that point. So very well played. Interesting game for sure. The Claw of Nagash is hard to deal with because it's already hard to catch a Mortis Engine, and it's obviously a very, very essential part of this, build for the Vampire counts, but it needs to be shut down. But without missile units and, Durusty Arrows and some Goblin Archers would be great for shutting it down. But with the way the zombie summon mechanics work right now, and the fact that you can summon like literally 3 full groups of zombies within like 10 seconds just on top of these different units, it's so hard to kind of do that. So very, very tough matchup here, but let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown. So the Black Orcs, it's again, the kills aren't terribly reflective of their performance simply because, they were fighting skeletons and zombies for a lot of the battle. But same with the Giants, and a lot of these kills were on skeleton spears and other units like that. You can see the skeletons took quite a bit of damage, and initially a lot of those auto attacks of the Giants were being wasted on skeletons, so very tough stuff. The Nasty Skulkers, I really liked that build idea from Pippington, using them to snare and then using the Foot of Gork to kind of bomb them so they can't escape. That was a really, really awesome play and definitely one of the highlights of the series for me. But still, the Vampire Counts player, Nirog, did very, very well. Pretty good with the Red Duke. He was extremely conservative. He just kept him in the air with summoning, not giving the Greenskin player any chance to kill him. Because again, if he had landed and, tried to help out a little bit, and some of the Goblin big bosses had surrounded him, and then Grimgor had gotten in there and done some work, it could have been really tough. And, those leadership hits are very substantial against the Vampire Count. So usually against the Greenskins, a faction with pretty hard-hitting leadership, it's usually a pretty safe bet to just play conservatively like that. Decent performance, of course, from the Banshee. It was just focusing heroic units mostly and just working on the Giants and the Black Orcs. Not a lot of kills, but still, it took absolutely no damage. So again, just a testament to its resilience. The Blood Knights did good. Even against most of his army, being armored, they still got a rear charge, and essentially collapsed that flank over there. So perhaps having some, I don't know if Orc Boy Biggins would have been the answer, or, even just some regular Biggins over there to trade with them with their relatively small anti-large bonus could have been helpful, but, very tough stuff. And Cryptor is obviously a great pick against Black Orcs. And the Claw of Nagash, as I mentioned during the replay, are very, very hard to catch for the Greenskin player. But I don't know what I would have advised. I think the Giants are a bit of a risky pick. I don't really like them because one of the Giants' biggest strengths, in my opinion, is the fact that they cause terror. So against a lot of factions, when you have like Giants mixed in with this very heavy infantry core, it can cause like a mass terror rout, and you can really just overpower that front line. But against the Vampire Counts, who have so many fodder units, I didn't like the Giant pick that much. But still, there is kind of a thought that they could march through and get to that Claw of Nagash, and a few big like 500 weapon damage hits could collapse it. But still, the spears and other units were just so effective at trading with those Giants. But regardless, a great game between Pippington and Nirog in the Total Warhammer Cup number 2. I'll actually be posting Game 3 here in the next few days, so stay tuned, guys. And I hope you enjoyed that tournament cast. Have an excellent night and take care.